11 o'clock and set my stuff up so that
You don't stop.
Where do you play?
Where?
Where do you play?
What do you want me to play? You mean instruments? Instrument?
Ability through in all levels of government, especially local. We're proud to be nonpartisan, which means that we don't support or oppose candidates or political parties. And we're always working on vital issues for the members of the public. A candidate forum is but one example of the important work that we do. I want to thank all of you candidates for being here. Running and holding public office is a huge commitment, and it's important for our democracy. I also want to thank this evening's volunteers that are here, and everyone who made it possible, because things came together right quick. And so thank you all. I'd also like to introduce Joyce Keel, and she is our moderator. And so I'll have her come on up and she can get started with the proceedings. Thank you very much.
Well, good evening, everyone, and I guess I should also say happy Juneteenth. I'd like to welcome all those of you who are listening on the phone, on Zoom, and here in person. So tonight, you're going to have the opportunity to assess 4 of the 14 candidates running for the 2 at-large seats on the tribal council. I'll give you their names: Scott Babineau, Stephen Boyd, Angela Emmerich, Shenna Garrity, Mark Goyke, Mercy Gordon, Ernie Grooms, Stephanie Defoe Haskins, Christopher Hicks, Angie LaPointe, Frank Montano, Shania Nordby, Dennis Solier, and Michael Solier. So you also, for those of you in the audience, also know that there are 2 candidates for vice chair, Nora Kadad and Rick Peterson, and 2 candidates for secretary, Vincent Brissett and Joseph Montano Sr. So we're not having a forum for them tonight because we need at least 2 candidates for any given position and to appear, and that didn't happen tonight. So the format tonight is opening statements by our 4 candidates who are here, question and answer period, and closing statements. And I'll explain how this works since all of us participate in it. First, you'll notice that all of the responses are time limited. I'll announce the time limit for each question. Generally, it's going to be 1, 1.5, or 2 minutes. We're going to default to 1 minute. And if I announce a different time, then I'll tell you that ahead of time. So our timekeeper, Ted Griggs, is going to hold up a 30-second warning sign. And it's going to follow that up with a time's up sign at the end of your time. So you can complete your sentence, but then you have to stop speaking. And I've heard some run-on sentences in my time, but we'll just be tolerant as best we can. So we know time limits are frustrating. So I'll mention why we have them. First off, the league is always very diligent about treating all candidates and everyone equally. And secondly, if we don't have time limits, we don't treat the audience fairly. If we get a lot of questions, and we want to get as many questions as we can. So we know it's not a perfect system, but we hope it strikes the right balance. And we usually draw randomly candidates' names out of the hat to determine your seating order, but tonight there were enough that we just are doing it alphabetically. So after your opening statements, we'll get to the question and answer period. So just to let you know that the in-person audience members, you can write your questions on a card that you hold your hand up if you need a card or pencil or something to get your completed card. And then Ann Chartier and Kate Miller, just raise your hand and they'll pick it up for you. And if any of you candidates want to write a question, you're welcome to. So if you're attending on Zoom, you can email your questions, and The address is redcliffe@abcleaguevoters.org. That's redcliffe@abcleaguevoters.org. It's shown right here. And we'll thank Roger Aiken, who's our Zoom operator for tonight. So, and our question sorter is Diane Kusid. She's going to screen the questions. And for defamatory content, which we don't have, and for duplication. So we'll get to as many questions as we can. We don't have a huge audience tonight, so hopefully we will have enough of them. I'm going to read it. If you need for me to repeat the question, feel free to ask me to do that. And after everyone's had a chance to answer, you can have a rebuttal comment if you would like for a minute. And if you would and if it's a complicated issue and you'd like a counter rebuttal, then you can have another minute for that. But just raise your hand. We usually don't get into that, but if something gets complicated, we can. And also, sometimes you'll have a question that's directed to a specific person. And if that happens, we'll let them answer first, and any of the rest of you can also answer if you would like to. So after that, question and answer period, we'll have a closing remarks statement from each of you for a minute. We plan to finish up by about 7:30 tonight. So I think we're set to go here with our four candidates. And I'm going to start alphabetically with Mark Gokey, a 2-minute opening statement, please.
Bonjour, Ninoy Magani do Vince, they bought me watch mode, Indigo, Macorindo Day, Neoman, the Swabacon, Wayne Zavaya, Jaganashi, Marjanita, Nisita Tazi on. So I'll speak English now so that I'm understood. My name is Mark Gokey, they bought me watch mode from right here in Redcliffe, and I'm of the Bear Clan. And basically, well, I think that I put my name in is I really believe that I can help the people. That's where all the power really is with the people. And to do that, we need to really build. I've seen a lot of good things happening, getting better, but also a lot of things that are really, really difficult. And a lot of, relatives, friends, neighbors that have had really tough times and have really been hurting. And I honestly believe one way that we can alleviate that and not just stop bad things from happening, but really building up good things is by being true to ourselves as Anishinaabe and practicing and building our sovereignty. There's a lot going on. I've been involved in planning processes before. Some of them are just beginning to bear fruit, such as our language program, which I'm really proud to be a part of, and I'm really proud of all the language learners there and their work with the children, really helping to develop our future. And I think it's really important that we listen as well as just go on about what we think and as a part of our process of building, because they're not only a community but a nation. So we wish to value.
Thank you very much. Next, Christopher Hicks.
Bonjour.
Excuse me. Just say we don't have a microphone system, so I'll try to talk up, and if you all would also try to do that. Thank you.
Okay.
Now your 2 minutes.
Bonjour, Nin Makade, Mangan and District Cause, and Schwabakang, and Blue Spot, Wabization of Dan. So I'm a Redcliffe member. My name is Chris Hicks. I live in new housing. I have 7 children, soon to be 8. We're on the way. My mom is Gretchen Morris, and my dad is Galen Hicks. My mom's a member from here. My dad is Chuck, member from down in Oklahoma. My grandparents, Marvin and Joanne Morris. And I feel compelled to bring opportunities and advocate for rights here for our people. I feel like we are spread thin and we need to bring our future, our tribe back together. We have so many bright minds and futures here to think that we are small like a town is undermining, our large willpower to be sovereign. Everybody talks about being sovereign here and the want to be more than we are. But we micromanage this tribe to the point that we cannot grow. We will never be what we want to be until we decide that we want to be that and we act that way. We don't carry ourselves that way. That has been the problem for 150 years here. So just a couple of things up front, for example, we all want to help those struggling, and we have a behavioral health department here, but no unit for our intakes. We depend on outsourcing all crucial matters in Red Cliff. What position does that put us in? We could have our own BHU, crisis bed, recovery house, three-quarter house, TLP house. But lacking this infrastructure puts your problems on waiting list. Assisted living, it's another problem. We don't have no assisted living, no nursing home, no residential options for elders. Where does that put our elders in? It puts them on a waiting list. They don't get the opportunity to age out and pass away in their own home. We push them off reservation, and where they end up on a waiting list. You got all of your youth and all of your young people. There's no opportunities here. Where do they end up? They end up selling drugs or doing drugs most of the time. And they get put on a waiting list. We're all on a waiting list here because we're so focused on external problems that we're not focused on the internal problems here. That's why I'm running for tribal council.
Frank Montano.
Buyur dan anak buah masyarakat sekarang itu di senador. I decided to put my name in because I believe that our people here have kind of fallen apart as a community. We look out our windows where we used to walk through the doors and visit with each other and know each other in the community. And when our doorbell rings now, I notice that people peek out their window to see who it is first. And it used to be a community was knocking on the door, opening the door and saying, if the asking the copy is on. And, and the old ways are kind of coming back, but it's really slow. Some of the things that I've noticed in our communities, there isn't a lot of availability for our young people in the arts. The arts is an important part of our life, whether it be arts, music, or any type of arts. There used to be at the Buffalo Arts Center when it was started way back, and I was the director. We had people, our own people, teaching others different forms of art, and we have a lot of artistic people in our community, are young people, and they don't have any way to give back to the community. So I think that, and I think that there's a lot of lack of things for elderly people also in the community that the elderly people don't have here, that a lot of the other reservations have, as far as things that are given to just a certain people. If you apply to a certain group, then you're able to share in some of the things that are available here for elders. Which
Shania Nordby.
Hi, I'm Shania Nordby, formerly Leaf, daughter of Harold and Jennifer, granddaughter of Harold and Ricky. I grew up in Red Cliff, grew up on Bishop Lane, moved away back in 2013 when I graduated from high school and went and got a degree down at UWL. Started a family down there, and my father passed unexpectedly in April of 2003. My family, it was no question, we decided to move closer to home, so we did. And in moving up here, finding somewhere to live was so hard. It was ridiculous. And I questioned, like, why is it so hard for people to move back to our community? and find somewhere to live. So I did some research. We had 34 plus abandoned lease sites. And I found that in an hour on a Sunday. And I was appalled that we had lease sites that were available that had to be cleaned up. And I'm like, how long? Some of these have been abandoned since before I left in 2013. And so I thought about putting my name in, and I debated back and forth, because I have two young kids, a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, and this is a huge time commitment. I talked with my family, and this is something that we're really committed to doing, because there's a lot of change that needs to happen. There's so much progress that can be made here. We need to have the right avenues and the initiative, and I know that we have the capabilities of doing it. We just need to come together as a community, as a whole, as everybody has said, because we aren't that way. It isn't, like Frank said, going and you can't knock on people's doors like you used to when I was a kid. Why is that?
All right. Okay, thank you very much. Now we'll start with the questions. Question number 1, this will be just for a minute. How would you create resiliency opportunities that is inclusive and diverse for our community? And we'll start with Christopher Hicks.
Can you repeat the question?
How would you create resiliency opportunities that is inclusive and diverse for our community? I think it's resiliency is the person who wrote it. If I'm misreading that, speak out.
So can you say that one more time? It's a
Okay.
big question.
How would you create resiliency opportunities that is inclusive and diverse for our community?
Yeah, so starting with the Boys and Girls Club, let's just start with the youth, you've got the youth there, they're trying. But as you can see, that youth center only has, it gauges from ages all the way, and it stops at 18. Well, then once you hit 18, what do you do? Like this gentleman Frank was just talking about, where there's a disconnect. There's a disconnection that, right now, we don't have that, there's not that body here where the government is putting its foot forward to put these programs or what would you call it, like a residual events, we're creating events, but we're not creating social habits. And I think my plan would be to create social habits here that are beneficial to our people, like playing ball outside, getting elders, gathered up on a regular basis, creating events that people want to actually attend, not just putting together an event, so then we're spending grant money and we got an event. That's a problem. Thank you.
All right, Frank Montana?
Same question.
Yeah, same question. Everybody gets a shot at the same question.
I think, one of the things that's really difficult is, as a single member of the council, these ideas are good and everything, but it takes the whole council to bring them together. And I think, there aren't a lot of things that are created for even the youth or the youth and the elders to join together and to become again a part of the community. And I think that we will work on hopefully trying to bring those type of events here that will include all ages of people and hopefully touch on some forms of art as a part of that. I think that that's a part of the ideas that I have about it. Of course, our traditional arts are important. And our new cultural center, I think it will help in that way to bring those here.
All right, Shania Northey.
Excuse me. So I think it's kind of one of the things, practice, we have to practice what we preach. So in order to, create resiliency, what does that look like? Like what would that look like to individuals? So that would be something that I would start with, because each person, their idea of what resiliency looks like, and then branching from there. You know, what if some, you know, to be resilient for some people is to go out and be outdoors and exercising our treaty rights and becoming in touch with that aspect of it. Whereas other people's might be, you know, going and doing, you know, other recreational things, or going and being part of political government. How is that person? So I think it's a matter of having that discussion as a whole, and as a council as a whole, to talk to the community, like what do we need to see, and what do we want to see as a whole for our community, and how can we give those different avenues, you know, whether it be outdoor, you know, political, or vice versa, the different avenues that we could go.
All right, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, so, I really actually like what Chris said about being a social habit. And, I've seen resiliency and social habit in this community, but it only kind of happens when, things are really awful. If you look at funerals, or someone loses a home or is really sick, you've seen people come together and really display resiliency and really engage in those, it's a really traditional thing and a really traditional practice that we do, but, to make it beyond that, we do have to, address that inclusiveness and that actual social habit. And part of that, I think, would be to get these departments and these programs working together, and not just to spend the grant dollars for a big one-off, but to actually develop a plan and develop these social habits and, engage in healthy activity as a regular part of our life cycle of our business. Yeah.
Great.
Would Mark mind if I add
Sure.
to that? So pretty much like being proactive instead of being reactive, you know, like not waiting until somebody dies or there's a big catastrophe, but doing it proactively. So then is that kind of what you're saying? Like building more of a proactive, instead of acting on a situation, making it so that we can be resilient to the situation before it.
Yeah, I mean, that's taking care of things, taking care of the flood upstream, so to speak. And, yeah, just building those habits and that builds resiliency in and of itself. And that's, it's contagious, but we gotta get to that hard work of working together.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Again, all right. Moving to the next question. Do you think relations with other governmental units like the county, town of Russell, town of Bayfield, the city of Bayfield, could be improved? And if so, what would you do to promote that? Starting with Frank Montana.
I think that, it can be improved with that. The only way that I see, and as I'm, you know, being involved in some of those things, the only way that I see that would be improving it would be to, have some type of, gatherings where the different entities are invited and inclusive in it, the community, you know, Town of Russell and all the other ones. So I think that it would be improved in that way, it's not happening at this time.
Shania Northby.
Yeah, I definitely think that the relationships can be improved. I guess my personal perspective on it is that sometimes I think those outside entities see us as just a reservation. And they think that they can get by skirting past this or getting past that because we're just a reservation. And I think that we need to have those meetings where we are seen as a more respected government, because we are a respected government. And we shouldn't be seen as just the reservation, and they have their own rules, so it's easy to put things up and it's easy to do things. So yeah, in that respect, I do think that, the relationships can be better.
Mark Gopi.
definitely those relationships can be improved. I think a lot of it would come down to, improved education and understanding of, why this particular relationship exists in the first place, how this came about, and that we're understood to be a sovereign people. And to be, treated in that fashion, and, understanding, that, your neighbors, but, how we got here and how the structure came about, it needs to be understood, and then with understanding comes, more respect, and I think more mutual benefit. And a way to go about that might be, setting up dialogues, meetings, like Frank said. And I think even just, any general understanding, and education on this history and how things came about and why the relationships are the way they are right now, would be beneficial.
And Christopher Hicks.
Yeah, can you repeat the question one more time?
Do you think relations with other governmental units like the county, town of Russell, town of Bayfield, city of Bayfield could be improved? And if so, how would you promote that?
Yes, I absolutely believe they can be improved. I sat on council before and I kind of seen how we interacted with the county and other entities, and there's a lot that can be done. And first and foremost, it comes down to lobbying. We don't have any separation of powers as tribal council. We've got 9 members that represent everything. So we need a lobby. It's our job to lobby. If we're not lobbying, we're not getting anything done. We're not being heard. We got to ask for those congressional acts. We need to get the money for that land that they've been making all the money on Madeline Island for this whole time, and all the money that they made off all this land. Why have we not got paid yet? We should be getting paid. God, who knows how much money we're owed. We need over the top thinking. We need to engage these type of ideas with the county, so they know what we're thinking, and we can find a foothold, and then we can go with that. We can move forward. In the past, when I was on council, we talked about creating our own rehab here with Bayfield County. And Bayfield County was all in, but the problem is good ideas here, they fall on deaf ears way too often. And we need consistency to be taken serious. And like Goki's saying over here, transparency is important. If our community was involved, they knew what was going on, we wouldn't just have 9 tribal members. We'd have 10,000 tribal members up in mean business, and things would get done.
All right, thank you. Next question, for a minute. If elected, how do you intend to utilize and protect the treaties for the next 7 generations? And starting with Shania.
So that's actually super important to me because I do have a background in water resources. So I think the biggest thing is first we need to start by protecting our forests and our waters. We need to make sure, and that starts by not just like the water within, but the watershed, the outside watershed, not just what's in Red Cliff, but we need to look beyond because it stretches. All of that mixes together. And so I think we really need to focus on what we're gonna do and executing it. What are we gonna do to execute? And that's a big question that we need to have, not just goes back to the previous question, not just within, but with the other entities, the county, the DNR, these other entities, the Park Service. How are we going to make this so that we have a say in how we protect our land?
Right, Mark Goki.
Yeah, so a lot of it is to come to fully understand those treaties, what was intended, and point out when they are in fact being violated. And it's up to us to exercise those rights. We don't ask for permission for them. We go and do it. We lead by example by being responsible with and respecting our beings, our swimmers, our four-leggeds, our water, everything. And part of that too is being diligent and knowing where those points of conflict might be, whether be through the private sector or through, other governmental entities, the EPA. Finding out those points of, possible protection and coming together, like Chris said, come together, we are much stronger that way, and we will, if we do our part together, the next 7 generations will inherit what we need.
Christopher Hicks.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. If elected, how do you intend to utilize and protect the treaties for the next 7 generations?
Yeah, absolutely. So using our treaties, to exercise our rights, you know, kind of following suit here, it goes down to this: if you're gonna continue to ask permission, you're gonna be continuing to be told what to do. Well, this is what your rights are. This is what that means. So how are we being told what our rights are, what these treaties mean, by people who were not even here when those rights weren't rights, they were a way of life? Now, our way of life, we're asking, because we've been brainwashed for so long and indoctrinated, that we have to ask what this means. We're asking what our rights are. We know what our rights are. We don't need to ask what our rights are. We need to implement and exercise our rights and tell them these are our rights. This is why we do this. This is how we do things here. This is our nation. We are not the town of Russell. We are not Bayfield. We're not Bayfield County. We are the Red Cliff Nation. We are the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior, Ojibwe.
Frank Montana.
Well, I think that everything that everybody else said is all good and well. But I think what we need to do, if we're 9 people here, and we need to believe in ourselves as this group that can go out there and demand that our treaty rights are exercised and that they're realized by all different forms of government, like, you know, has been said here, that we need to stop asking permission. We need to stop doing things in a way that, you know, has been done, that was a part of assimilation, of course, is to being taught that everything that we are is less than human. There was a recognition of our people that we weren't human beings with that. And the treaties were signed by our grandparents, and I think that one of the best ways is to somehow include it in our education system, that the young people learn about the treaties in the school systems.
Next question. What is your philosophy regarding resolving conflict amongst council members and community members? Starting with Mark Wilkie.
Resolving conflict between council members and.
Resolve conflict, it says amongst council members and community members, and I'm not quite sure if that means.
Intra-council violence.
Just take it however you.
Okay, yeah, so as far as my philosophy with I don't know, I guess disagreement between council people, I just lean back on what our teachings are. That we're respectful, but you stand up for the people, you stand up for what's right. And you make your case in that manner, with that in mind. I just don't, I don't see how there anything can be that irreconcilable as long as we're working for the people. And as far as the people go, you know, there's different ways of mediation, listening to both sides of an issue, come to an understanding, and make sure that no, not harm done. Life's hard enough as it is. We don't need to be harming each other.
Thank you. Christopher Hicks.
Yeah, you know, so I've always thought that our tribal council meetings are the most boring things ever for people to want to attend. And the reason why is because there's no reason for me to engage. It's just your community concern starts at 4:30. I just got off work. I'm not even gonna get here. It's almost like the tribal council doesn't even want us at these meetings. So I've always thought that, yeah, there should be those two tribal council meetings, but those should be two separate meetings. You can attend, but there should also be, on those opposite days, the opposite weeks, there should be community meetings. That's community come in. We want to promote transparency. We want to listen. We want to reflect what you want. And I want to explain what we're doing. And I want to ask you questions to why you want what you want, why you don't agree with what I want. Let's come to a compromise. Maybe I'm not making the right choice. Tell me why. Maybe we need to make a better choice. Tell me why. That's what needs to happen. There's not enough community engagement here.
Frank Montano.
You know, some of the things that I observe and that I really would like to see improved is the council itself and their relationships with each other. In a lot of the meetings, you know, we're here and we're talking, each one of us has to talk here, but in the council meetings, there's maybe one person that dominates the whole meeting. That has an agenda set up and dominates and it's run on time. Everything is timed. You have all these different people sitting there, and if you're on the council, you have no opportunity sometimes to express your thoughts on it, and I think that's what causes a lot of the conflicts among the people, and I think maybe even as a council, having time for discussion as a group, you know, about certain issues rather than having a lot of things keep going and conflict, you know, we arguing with each other.
Okay, Shania Norby.
Would you mind repeating?
Sure. What is your philosophy regarding resolving conflict amongst council members and community members?
So first, I don't see conflict as always a bad thing. Sometimes conflict needs to happen to get to the overall solution of an issue. Because otherwise, if there's no conflict, people I think are brushing things under the rug. And that's not the best way to solve a problem, but it's how you go about that conflict. So I mean, as long as it's gone about in a peaceful way, I'm a firm believer, if you have done your research and you go about it confidently and you know what you're talking about, not just to cause rifts, then, and in a polite way, you know, if it starts to be raising voices and stuff like that, that's not, conflict can happen in a very calm way. So I think if it got out of hand, I'd probably step in and be, you know, maybe let's try to solve this in a more peaceful way, whether it be with a community member, among council, you know, there's a more peaceful way to have that conflict, but it can happen. We just need to have that resolution once it's happened.
All right, next question. How do you intend to support the elders in the community? And start with Christopher Hicks.
Yeah, so for the elders, like I was saying before, I think we need assisted living. I think we need a nursing home here. I think we need residential. These are all options for elders. But, you know, we're not putting it out there like that. You know, we're just focused on outsourcing. We always take the easy route. Now look at how many things we're outsourcing from children to elders. And then your elders are now, they're just being like forgotten. It's so sad because growing up hearing from my aunts and uncles and stuff, it was crazy how important elders were. And now I see this youth. They don't even visit their grandma and grandpas. You know, they don't, it's just, there's no engagement no more. We're not going to get these stories no more. So then that becomes a big problem for a culture that's trying to grow, a culture that's trying to bring it back. You know, so we need these things so our elders can be here at home. Outsourcing our elders to go off somewhere else and, you know, push dirt and we'll bury you up on our cemetery when you're ready. That's awful. To me, that's awful.
Frank Montana?
Well. I'm always this old person that has to think about this part of that being called something that a long time ago was restricted and recognized by the community, and that is someone that's another. Someone that's old is not considered a long time ago as an elder. So I think that certain gatherings would probably be you know, I would try to push to have gatherings of the older people and not send them everything, messages over the internet, because a lot of us have a difficult time with that new way of communicating. I think that's one of the big problems we have. And, you know, in our elderly feeding site is usually the only place that a lot of the older people get together. So there's really not enough special events for older people. And, you know, it's an age thing that, you know, you're considered as you get a certain age, you're automatically someone that knows everything. And I don't know everything.
I'm just laughing because I'm elderly too. I certainly don't know everything, but anyway, Shania Norton.
Your question.
Sure, how do you intend to support the elders in the community?
So, I think that it'd be cool if we did like a program where, you know, people could sign up, because, so a lot of the elders who, you know, live on their own, or, you know, they don't necessarily want to go to the elderly meeting, they don't want to do, you know, that necessarily, or go, you know, out and about on the elderly trips on the bus. But they feel like a burden to ask someone to come and help them because they did that themselves. So if we had a program where they didn't necessarily feel like a burden, but we stopped by, we had, you know, younger generations, not just the youth, but, you know, my generation, the generation, you know, ahead of mine and ahead of that, they go and they sign up to go and do a, you know, like a grandma, you know, you have it for the, you know, like brother and sister program, like an adopt a grandparent kind of a thing, where you have your person that you go to and you learn, you know, what if that person crochets? What if they love to fish? They can teach that person that skill, share their stories. They, you know, can then rely on that person to potentially help them with, you know, the tasks around the house, but also share their knowledge.
All right, Mark Goki.
So one kind of fast, well, first things first, I think a good idea would be to listen to them. To find out what they are needing. And there's a lot of great potential to do that. Not only to listen, but then to implement and go about meeting what their stated needs are. It's part of changing those social habits, using all of our different programming working together. We could have something like even finding an elder to pair up with maybe an expected mother. You know, they could learn, from that elder, you know, and they haven't had babies in a while, you know, it's something that they have fond memories of. Maybe they can spend some healthy time together, or, you know, there's all kinds of different kind of siloed niche programming that actually do go out to the community, and not just at the elderly center, but if we can kind of get some mutual incorporation between those programs and those activities, I think it would go a long way, you know, just like I said, especially after listening to what their actual stated needs would be.
All right, thank you. Next question. What are your thoughts and ideas for more youth initiatives? And starting with Frank Montana.
I think a lot about the fact that a lot of the young people in the community like I said, don't, and some are my grandchildren, don't go to the youth center. Because there's really, for them, there's not a lot of things that interest them that would be youth programs that we have, and I don't like, picking on racist things, but I believe that a lot of our people that are hired up here are non-native in a lot of the positions. And some of the children that are trying to follow our native culture and so on, and they kind of shy away from those events because they're not inclusive in how they feel about the community and so on.
Shania Northeast?
So I guess there needs to be a lot more programs for the kids up here. We don't really have soccer until you get to be like first grade, second grade, basketball, maybe third grade, if there's a coach or enough interest. You go to these outside communities, just even to Washburn, they started in at 3 years old. Like, I think it's starting it at a younger age and putting it out there, and that falls on us as parents and, the older community, because we're the ones who need to put that initiative in, because the kids they can't watch themselves. So we need to be able to put that in, to be able to put that initiative, to want to put the programs in. So we need to want to add more programs and like diversify, not just the sports, add art, add alternative. We have, Rocky and, Vicky have their horses up the road, like not necessarily them, but like we have so many opportunities here where youth can be, exposed to many different things. We just need to do it.
All right, thank you. Mark?
Kind of falling back to what I mentioned about the elders, I think we ought to listen to the youth as well. Find out what some of their interests are and encourage them to kind of get to know themselves, to know what it means to be an Anishinaabe, to build them up and to be proud of that, so that they feel that they're valued and that they are a part of something. You always have, as long as you're a part of something like bigger, you tend to feel better about yourself. I know finding direction in my life happened a lot older for me. I had my parts when I was a kid, but I needed more of it. And now that I have something to work towards and to work with, feeling like that I am able to help and to contribute and learn more about the language and the culture. I think it makes for better outcomes.
Christopher Hicks?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. What are your thoughts and ideas for more youth initiatives?
Great. So I always think, what about our youth and our people? We focus so externally, we forget about maybe our childhoods or what would have helped us. I like to reflect myself. The school lacks in summer programs, for example. The tribe falls short for the adults, the young adults. So we got to exercise Wisconsin Act 31. The school needs us to speak. We don't speak on Wisconsin Act 31, then they're just going to implement the little bits that they think they need to implement, but they aren't us. So how would they know? We need options. Programming, there's the Boys and Girls Club, growing up, funnest summer school program ever. It's all summer long. You could run through Boys and Girls Club. It's called Get Hooked on Fishing, Not Drugs. What a coincidence. That would work great here. Let's Explore Wisconsin, another Boys and Girls Club program that would work great here. Runs all summer long. Treaty and council education. We want these people to be representatives of our tribe, but you're never going to educate them on our treaties or council. And last but not least, ceremonies. We're so focused on language, not focused enough on ceremonies. Ceremonies and language go together. It's like a coin, you know, yin and yang, you need them both. Thank you.
All right. And the next question is, currently, how are you living your life using seventh generation thinking? And they haven't enough thinking 7 generations behind us and 7 generations ahead. The question is, how are you living your life? And starting with Shania Norton.
So, kind of how I was taught, you know, we respect our earth, we respect our community, we respect those around us. And I'm teaching that to my kids. I'm, you know, not only teaching it, but demonstrating that. You know, it's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to show it. So, you know, simple things by, you know, showing my kids that open the door for people, you know, like little things that we need to teach our kids and then demonstrate for our children. And I learned, you know, how to do those things by watching and observing and growing up around, you know, my grandma and, you know, my mom and dad and my grandpa and, you know, my great aunts and uncles. Being around community and like being able to be back here is so important because I'm able to give my kids a life that I was able to grow up having. So I can not only show them those things, but demonstrate them in the same environment that I was able to be raised in.
Thank you, Mark Roki.
Yeah, so as far as, could you repeat like 7 generations
Sure,
back?
it says currently, how are you living your life utilizing 7 generation thinking? And they added parentheses, thinking of 7 generations behind us and 7 generations ahead.
Well, currently, for myself, everyone knows I've been trying to work the language and exercising our culture, using our tobacco in a good way, doing tobacco talks, that sort of thing, and trying to help train up teachers for our immersion school. And I come to this point because of all the ones that came before us. They had a real hard time, and we're really standing on their shoulders and reaping the benefits of them sticking things through and sacrificing for us to be in the position we are in now. Because things are tough, but they could have been a lot worse. And thinking forward, I think building is the way to go. Building each other up, building our infrastructure, and not just a brick and mortar kind of way, but our cultural, our community, and our development on our way of doing things and our systems of support.
Christopher Hicks.
Yeah, I think about my grandma and grandpa. So me and my mom were talking the other day about having a picture with my grandpa. I'm lucky to have a big family. This picture that we're gonna take will have 6 generations in it, so 1 short of 7 generations, you know. Big family, you know, but I think, you know, what my grandpa missed and what he needed, and I hear him talk, and how grateful he is to see the position we're in now to have rights, to be able to do things, and be able to ask. And then I think about the 7 teachings, I think about truth, I think about love, courage, patience, respect, knowledge, humility. These are the attributes that I believe that need to be carried, you know, as a council member, you know, as a person, and to be passed on, you know, to our people. You know, that's the way I think that we should be walking. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Frank Montana.
Repeat that.
Sure, currently, how are you living your life using 7 generation thinking?
I think, I've always lived my life using 7th generation teachings and not, somebody putting a number on it, telling me that this is what it is, it's 7 generations, but I've grown up in this community as a young person, and live with the elderly people that were here and some of the ones that were signers of the treaty. And I was taught all these spiritual ways of living through my whole life. And by showing my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and all the others that I've been fortunate to be able to travel around and visit with the teaching in many places, such as prisons and treatment centers, those type of facilities, showing what I am about and what I live as a Native person. And I try to teach them by doing, including those little ones that I hate, you know, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, out in the woods and by the lake and so on, and teach them our language and to treat everything, including all the trees and plants and everything else, teaching them about how the spirit evolves and all these things. And that's how I live my life. I live that way every day. Teach them to thank the Creator for the life that we have.
And we'd like to welcome Scott Babineau, who was able to join us. And what we've done is everybody gave 2 minutes opening remarks, and we've been going through a series of question and answers from the audience. So if you'd like to give your 2 minutes, and then we'll start folding you in onto into the questions and answers.
So, bonjour, apologies, I was,
Oh, and I should say too, we don't have a mic, so.
yep, I was in the housing board meeting, that's the reason I'm late. But, you know, really, it's an honor, it's a privilege to be able to sit in this position and to be able to give back to my community. I heard the question about what do 7 generations look like? And it was but yesterday that Nogichi came in front of us and gave us a little bit of that history. And for me, it's always about keeping that in the back of my mind. Right? So when I make decisions, that's always at the forefront of my decision making. That quality of care that we deserve, you know, we deserve the best. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's an honor and a privilege. I continue to look for ways to be able to give back to my community. Not only do I currently sit on the council level, but I also sit on the housing board committee. I sit on the family and youth services committee. And so I'm always constantly looking to be proactive in my community and at the end of the day, just be able to give back and help out just that much.
Thank you. Okay, next question. What is your knowledge of sovereignty and how do you intend to support Red Cliff sovereignty as a tribal member and if elected as a council member? So start with Scott Babineau.
It's a great question. Sovereignty, you know, it's our ability to keep our land base, our language, our culture alive. But there's something that we all got to keep in mind too. Like Sonia asked the question, what are you going to do? There are 10+ initiatives that are years in the making, from the multi-million-dollar to the million and on, that are already in place. And when 2, 3, 5 of those are finished, there's 10 more initiatives that are going to easily take its place. And so there's a lot of things that are already in place. But I'm going to, first question again, about sovereignty.
The question was, what is your knowledge of sovereignty and how do you intend to support Red Cliff sovereignty?
Yep.
Excuse me, as a community member and if elected as a council member?
By keeping our past and my present to be able to make the best decisions for our community.
And I should have also told you there's a timekeeper, so it's 1 minute unless I tell you otherwise. And he'll show it, he'll put up the signs.
Thank you.
All right, Marco.
Yeah, so as regards to sovereignty, I think that's something that is inherent to us as a people. And in order to exercise it and to maintain it and to keep it, we've got to build it. And that's, become, through a lot of processes, through a lot of, hard work and planning. We maintain our sovereignty through our language, our culture, our land base. These are all things that make us indigenous people. But we gotta be able to be sovereign in our housing, in our food, in our medical care, in our education. A lot of areas that, if we wanna truly be sovereign, we're gonna have to, work together and really develop, think long-term, while at the same time, we've got a lot of crises on our immediate hands to, we have to address those needs as well. Yeah.
Christopher Hicks?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think about sovereignty, I think about, we have the right here to home rule. We have the right here to build. We have the right here to listen, we have these, as Scott said, initiatives in place, but these initiatives often put blinders on thinking bigger for our people. Because there's 10 more initiatives, like you said, that are gonna be put in place now. 10 more initiatives after that. So when is our turn? When is it the people's turn for something to happen here? When are we gonna engage in our sovereignty? That's the reason why our tribes have been struggling for over 150 years. It's because we are not engaging. We are being told, you have 10 more things to do now. You have 10 more things to do now. Our Constitution needs to be revamped. It was written in 1933 by racist bureaucrats. Yet we follow this Constitution that's made to pit us against each other. We run on separate terms. Our council members run against each other. We're fighting amongst each other. We have no lobbying of our own tribal members in DC. They say we have a lobbyist, some non-tribal member in Washington DC that does it for free. When shouldn't there be in Edwina, in Elena, someone who's passionate, who's down there representing our people, lobbying down in DC? Our own people should be down there. We should be paying for our own people to represent us. There's a lot that we need to do. Sovereignty is huge. It's too big to answer 1 minute. Which,
Frank Montano?
Yeah, I think sovereignty is something that we really don't believe in a lot here, and we need to stop depending on others to lead us all the time. And that is our lawyers and our other people that are usually the ones that make all those decisions for the council to do these things, and they're the ones that are relied on to look at what the rules are on sovereignty and what it is that we believe in ourselves. If we don't have enough of our people to speak up and say, this is what our sovereignty is. It's our life. It's our inherent life that we have among our people here. We live by other rules outside of our community.
Shania Murphy?
So I think our sovereignty is great, but we need to also not be so reliant on the government, not so reliant on all of the handouts, because then when we become reliant on those things, then we cannot be sovereign for ourselves. We can make those choices for ourselves. As Chris, I think, was saying, the medical sovereignty, the food sovereignty. We have a wonderful farm up there where we are, beginning that food sovereignty initiative. And we have the clinic, but is the medical care the best here? Who knows? So it's that's a debate in and of itself. So we need to be sovereign. We need to also have the good resources. We need to be able to find our community those resources, so we don't need to rely on these outside entities to help our people be sustainable within our own community.
There's a whole series of questions about, language, and I will just read them collectively to you and so that everybody feels like their question was asked. And then you can respond. And on this one, I'll give you a minute and a half. How have you supported the tribe's language and culture initiatives? In consideration to the tribe's 5-year language plan, what are some elements important to you that you would like to see included in the 5-year plan, language plan? If elected, how do you intend to support the community's language and culture initiatives? And another, how will you support Ojibwe language revitalization in Red Cliff if you are elected? So a lot of interest in that question. We'll start with Mark Bolton.
Oh, so it so happens, that first 5-year language plan, I was, long time, but we're both part of the, community planning, of that. It was a big task. And, so what it's come to, so far is we're about to, reassess things and come up with a further long-term plan. Is the department I'm in, our language, our language teacher and training program. And we're trying to develop, our, homegrown, teachers for immersion schools or immersion classrooms. I think it's vitally important that we get our language going because all of our ceremonies are in our language. What distinguishes us as Indigenous people are 3 things: a distinct land base, a distinct culture, and a distinct language. And they're all connected together. And a big part of that is developing our language and culture initiatives throughout the community, throughout our tribe, because it's not just gonna be those little kids are gonna wanna come home and be speaking to their brothers and sisters and their aunties and uncles and their moms and dads. Get me on the council, I will certainly support these initiatives that we move forward. Yeah.
Christopher Hicks.
Yep, so I had sat on tribal council in the past, and when I was on council, that was when we had passed the Rosetta Stone. So we got together with the some other tribes that were using this. And now the Rosetta Stone is being used throughout the tribe to help implement the language. You know, a big group of people made that happen. So hats off to everybody who did that. I see through here. Wisconsin Act 31. I think in school that needs to be really, really pushed. We got to push the Wisconsin Act 31 to get that education pushed throughout the school. Because again, the school will only do what we tell them to do. They will not do anything extra, not an inch extra, not nothing extra. We need to push for education on the res. 90% of that school is from Red Cliff. Education needs to be here more for these kids. Make it fun, make it able to engage. Kids want something fun. And they want to engage. Remember, I'm teaching kids, how to fight, how to box. I make it fun and they have a good time and they're learning how to box, but they're having fun while doing it. Ceremonies, ceremonies teach where the language goes, so ceremonies and language go together. There's not enough ceremonies. Ceremonies are more of like, we need to, it's a one and done thing. We'll have random ceremonies here and there. It needs to be consistent. These are when we have ceremonies. This is why. And this is where the language goes. Now you know when to use that language. You don't just know some words. History. Our language is our history. I asked an elder once, how do we keep track of our history? And they said to me, our history is in our language. It's in the words. I think there needs to be more research on our origins to develop the power of our language. The more powerful our language will be, the more it's going to develop our people.
Thank you. Frank Montana.
Well, we've been struggling with this for a lot of years before it came to this time here. And it was difficult in the beginning and we finally came to this space here, and some of us, quite a few of the people have passed on that I worked with on getting the language back here, and our belief is that it's one of the most important parts of our life and culture, and the problems that I see that, eventually do change is the idea that we need more what is called immersion type of programs here in our community here, where people can go and maybe even out in our campground out there and go into an immersion type of setting of 2 weeks or maybe more during the summer, and have just our language spoken in those places, because that's one of the most important parts of learning our language and understanding how we relate with everything else in our lives in our community. Because it's all that, like we keep repeating to people, it is a living language. It's different than the English that our brains are forced to use, and as we learn our language in the beginning, we interpret it into English in our minds as we're speaking the words. So immersion is what is necessary.
Shania Norton.
So my experience with language really before coming back here was what was taught to me when I went to Bayfield school. And the way they taught it there, it kind of made me push back from wanting to learn my language, because it felt like it was just very shoved down my throat. And I always had a tendency to just want to push back. And by coming back here and seeing the initiative of how it's being taught here, and that it's self-taught and like at your own pace, it's super awesome. The immersion school, I think that's amazing. And the revitalization of the language, it's so beautiful and it's so amazing. Me on a personal level, because I don't have a whole lot of background in the language, if I'm being completely honest. So like if I were to put my child into immersion, I would want a program where like I could learn along with my child, because I also have a full-time job. So like something that's not necessarily full 100% or, even 70%, if we could start with like 50-50, because then at home, I could also learn with my child, but also teach my child, because for I think something to work, you need to also be incorporating, whether it be Ojibwe language or math or science, anything, you have to also do that at home. So we need to be able to make it so that the parents can also, I'm the word I'm trying to think of, I can't think of it right now, but can also help encourage that and promote the word I'm thinking, promote that at home, and that knowledge and education at home. So the way it's being taught here, I think is amazing, and it's starting to make me want to learn again. So
Scott Ravenel.
Yes, so I remember growing up and being at all these camps, and as a youth growing up in this community, I remember an elder one time talking about the importance of our language and how it related to our sovereignty. And in fact, his words were that what made us sovereign was our language. So right then and there, that's the importance of it, that it holds in this community. Not just this community, but Indian country in general. And then, taking into consideration, well, how's that going to come about? And so that initiative came, and the lifeblood of this community is grants in and of itself, federal, state. And so through that, they were able to train the likes of Marky and some individuals in this community, in this crowd here too. And then we can then in return teach our little ones. So it's like a trickle effect. And so hopefully, our grant writers and our planners can get to work and secure more funding to be able to really snowball the effect, so to speak, and we can really make change happen. But I agree with everything that Bernal said it, was accurate.
Okay, next question. It says, how would they you prevent mental health concerns and other drug addiction issues in our community? So I think it's asking about addressing mental health concerns and issues, I mean, and also preventive programs for mental health issues and drug addiction. So how would you go about addressing that as a councilman? Starting with
Is this, excuse me, is this a 1 minute or a minute?
1 minute. Christopher Hicks.
Yeah, we all wanna help, those struggling, and, the thing is, we have a behavioral health department here, but we have no behavioral health unit here. We have a recovery house here, but we have no crisis bed here. We have drug addicts here, we have no rehabilitation center here. We have parks, and what we need is everything to be connected together. The behavioral health department needs a behavioral health unit, behavioral health unit needs crisis bed. Crisis bed needs a recovery house needs a three-quarter house needs a TLP house. All these are like connected because there's all these different things that are gonna happen to people. Prison, mental health, drug addiction, drug dealing, these are all different problems that arise to different levels, different entities, different types of help, but all under this hub. And we don't have it here. So what do? We outsource. We put everybody on a waiting list. And how's that going? The last couple of years, I've been burying friends left and right, so it ain't going too good. We need to step it up in the community and demand these things. Again, it comes down to, good ideas fall on deaf ears when they're not talked about by everybody. It's not just up to these 9 people, it's up to people coming up and demanding it from the council. We need this. Like Scott said, there's grant money rolling out the wazoo, especially for help.
Thank you, and this is such an important issue, so you took about a minute and a half, we'll give everybody else a minute and a half on this. So then next, person is Frank Montana.
It's hard not to repeat what other people say, but I really agree with Chris here as our council needs to take the lead and looking at these things and trying to come up with better ways to deal with these problems with our people and not just youth. All of their problems are, all of the families, we have someone that is addicted and someone that's sitting here and there. Treatment facilities or in places like that, and we don't have any of those available here in our community. Everybody has to get sent somewhere else, to get the help that they need. I think that as a council, we need to start looking at that and helping our community to come up with those ways to deal with those issues that are coming from pharmaceutical corporations as well as the outside places that bring those things here and introduce them into our communities.
All right, Shania Norby.
So, we all see it, we all see the people walking up and down. There are cousins, our uncles, our aunties. We know somebody, we always see somebody that we know walking up and down, and we ask ourselves why. At least I do. Because, I think when I left, 6, 7 years ago, they weren't like that. What happened? And it made me question why, what led to all of a sudden this group of people that I don't remember feeling scared to have my kids out on the road on Bishop. There's no way I would let my 7-year-old sit in the front yard by herself. No way. So we need to be proactive. We need to not find solutions like Chris was saying, burying, that's not a solution to the problem. That's the ultimate worst case scenario, and that's happening time and time again. Why? And that's what I want to try and do is help council figure out why, listen to our community members and figure out the why. Because I don't have an answer, because I think if we did, we'd have this figured out by now. We don't want to see this.
Scott Babineau?
Yes, so, you know, a lot of this comes down to really needing money to be able to do this. You know, at the end of the day, these are all great ideas and I love it, and we've talked about it. And, it comes down to money and lack thereof, you know. Understanding where that money comes from. When I think of the troubles our community is in, I think of intergenerational trauma. And I think, well, what's the antidote to that? In and of itself, it is education. Be able to educate ourselves, kind of like being able to teach ourselves. That language falls within that same realm. And we need more teachers, like this will get you doc right here, who is doing an amazing job creating the gold standard for wraparound care for this community. Starts there, and that's a great start.
Mark, go.
Yeah, so a lot of the concerns are, of course, the resources, lack thereof. But what we need to do is really, I think as a people, we do have all the tools we need. We have to apply them though. We have to apply them together. We have to really figure out how to get to the why. Like we said, we need these people to be reenfranchised and reincorporated into our community so that they feel their lives have meaning. To do that, we have to build these new social standards, these new just ways of being. They're not even really new, they're all everything that we were given. But due to many factors, you know, poverty, the actual people dropping that bad medicine off on us, you know, it's taken hold of us. But if we do de-silo our different programs, our different community members, our relatives, we can start to address these things. You know, all of a sudden, you're not looking at people, you're looking at drugs. But those are our people, and they need help, they need resources to help them, and they need to be almost like I guess it's like a job program, but more than a job program, it's being a part of a community program. Cause they're us, you know, on their worst day, they're still us, you know, our people. And we gotta come together and do some real targeted thinking on how to help them.
Well, boy, we're running out of time, I think. I got more questions, but I think we'll just do one more. And then we'll have the closing statements, just so that we try to not get everybody too tired out. Please comment on the challenges for parents and grandparents when their children or grandchildren come out of the closet. And it says, do you think insurance companies will cover medical costs for transgender people? But I think one of the things that could be useful for you to address is, do you think that the tribal council has any role or anything positive that you could do with respect to these issues?
Just 1 minute or?
1 minute. Yeah, and we'll start with Frank Montana.
I really don't have a whole lot of comments on those type of issues, and I don't think that it's something that, in my eyes, that the council is, you know, obligated to make any, you know, any comments or rules on those things which are part of a person's lifestyle. I don't think that the council or the churches or any of those people really should have, you know, way of stating whether it's good or bad or whatever. It's something
Shania, Dorothy.
You're a good person. I don't care what you do, who you love. That's kind of how I feel about that. So as long as you're a good person, cool with me.
Scott Bevan.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I grew up in this community and you'll hear things like double spirited, part of our culture, we talk like that, you know, growing up, there was never no issues or no, you know, bullying that I knew of, that I saw, and I could sit there and I could say, hey, you know, that one's double spirited and she's being bullied. I never witnessed that, and I'm sure it happens. I would hope that would come together as a community to really be able to smudge that out, so to speak, if it does occur, but I haven't seen it. I'm okay with this guy. Being double spirited. No. So, but yeah, it's getting right.
You're okay with me, buddy? Sorry.
Mark Gold.
Oh, Scotty's all right with me. You know, respect the kids, respect who they are, nurture them. Show them support, show them love to be good family members, good friends, good neighbors. Allow them to have all the opportunities that they need to have to be happy and healthy. It's not big. All there is. Yeah.
Right, Christopher Hicks.
Yeah, I don't believe we should make rules on such, and, you know, we should protect those who practice that way. If that is their way, then that is their way, you know, it's not my role to get in the way of what you wanna do. But something to put in perspective. By 2060, they would say that the Muslim religion will be the primary culture in the world. And I don't know if you guys know much about Muslims, but they believe in Sharia law. Sharia law, you know, they kill people who follow, you know, if you're homosexual or transgender, you'll get killed in that country. Like if you're out in Gaza right now, you get killed for that. So it's just something to understand that, yeah, we don't see it as a fight now, and it's not really a question that, you know, you think is a big deal. But in 2060, that question might be a big deal. And if you have a cousin or a family member, you know, my sister gets married this weekend and she's getting married to a woman. You know, if you have somebody who is following that way, something to put in perspective that you will need a strong counsel to protect you, to make sure that here, if you want to practice that way, you're always gonna be able to practice that way. You're gonna be okay. Which.
Right, well, we have to wrap up the question and answer period, and again, apologies if your question wasn't asked. We always get so many good questions, and we try to read enough questions so that you get a good sense of who the candidates are on a variety of issues. So again, apologies if your particular question wasn't asked, and I'd really like to thank everybody that turned in questions. It's great. So it's time to hear the 1 minute closing remarks. We're gonna go with the reverse order from what we did before. So we'll start with Shania.
Well, thank you so much for listening. I'm really excited to see, you know, where this leads. Biggest thing is that I can lead with anything is that young people don't necessarily have to, like, don't shy away from the younger generation. Like, we have a voice too, and some different perspectives that maybe haven't been brought to the table yet.
Frank Montana.
Well, as a person that's, up in age, you know, I've experienced a lot, and I think that, it would be good to see that a lot of the older people would somehow be included as, having things to share about their lives with the community and maybe even with the council.
Christopher Hicks.
Yeah, I've been a victim of oppression a lot of my life. I grew up as a poor child, through a lot of abuse growing up. And I want to show people love. One thing I always needed as a child was help. I asked for help, it just never came the way that I thought it would. And now I feel like that I am the help, that I need the help. Every day I wake up, I need to help somebody. So I'm here to help you, I'm here, fight for you, like our ancestors did, I think about our ancestors, the sacrifice that they made, going to Sandy Lake and back, because they wanted to be here when they tried to run them out. So we could be here, so we can be speaking right now. And I think I have to do that. I have to be here for our people. I have to push them. I'm a motivator, and I like to enable people, So I want to empower our reservation. And I want to see that vision. I see it in everybody's eyes, when I'm going through the housing and stuff. I see these kids. They've just got these sparkly little eyes and they're happy and full of love and don't know what the hell they're gonna do. And that right there gives me hope. But they need guidance. Oh,
Right, Mark Gilkey?
Oh, well, miigwech everyone for coming out and pulling this event together. So it's something I've ever experienced and it's kind of a little strange. I'm used to just talking to people, so hopefully you can bear with me in my answers, but I really do believe we gotta get going on things and we have the potential to do it. We really do. We just have to start just breaking down our barriers, listening to each other. I think I definitely am all about listening. I have ideas and I'm willing to work hard. But I think we can really turn things around. It's been real slow, real incremental so far. Not fast enough, but we gotta build for the long term. Remember what we've been given. We've been given teachings, we've been given tools to be able to live good lives. We weren't put here to suffer. We've been put here to not just live, but to thrive. And I think with some open ears, open hearts and open minds, we can pull together and really set things up for the future. So miigwech bizindawi.
All right,
I
Scott
want to
Bevan.
thank North Doc for really spearheading this, putting this together. This is the first time, my understanding, that larges were able to have this kind of platform. As well as the league voters for coming out and for the community members showing up and listening to the future leaders. It was an honor and a privilege to serve these last 2 years. And it'll be an honor and a privilege to continue to, give back to my community, whether I'm at the table on this level or other committees or whatnot. Really grateful, really, truly. And, I want to wish each and every one of you good luck. Good luck to your future endeavors and hope to see you on there. Oh, you good?
Well, thank you very much. And you've now heard from 5 of the 14 candidates for the 2 at-large positions on the tribal council. And remember, you're also going to be voting for the vice chair and secretary. So the election is July 2nd. And of course, I have to say that the League of Women Voters encourages you to vote. So thanks again to all of the candidates and to the audience and to those on Zoom and to our league crew here for putting it all together and working on this. So that's it. Thank you and good night.
thank you ladies very much.
I gotta go.